Hello and welcome to Pratik Chess Videos.
Hello chess friends, today we are going to see a game between Hoffman and Alexander Petrov in the year 1844. This game was a unique game because of its attacking and sacrifice nature. So this game is a very interesting game on how to play the Italian. Very interesting. Let's start the game. The game started e4, e5, knight f3, and this is the open. This is the king's knight opening, more known as the king's pawn game. And now knight f3, e4, e5. It is one of the most common variations. Now knight to c6 is the main move. And Alexander Petrov is the founder of knight to f6, the Petrov defense, or the Russian game is. He has first played that this opening. He has founded that opening knight f6. So, but in the game he played knight c6. Now bishop to c4 was played. Bishop to c4 with the idea of now we will short castle and also play d4. That's why here bishop c5. We are also developing our pieces and then we also want to short castle after knight f6. So now c3, planning d4. We want to capture the center. No, no way we won't. So now knight f6 is coming. Now we reach the classical variation of the Italian game. Now there's this move d4, which now reaches the center attack, which is not played this much because here it is proven that it is equal for black. Because see now there it is equal. Yeah, see what yeah, d4, not this one, e into d4. This game is considered equal for black here because here e5 is the main line. If you play here e5 was played in the game. If you play here c into b4, c into d4, there's this long variation bishop b4 check. Now bishop d2 is the main line. Bishop into d2 check, knight b into d2, d5, e into d5, knight into d5. Now we reach an equal game. After queen b3 and knight c7, we then play short castle, rook f1, and now c6, and we reach an equal game. There's here a variation of knight c3, the Greco gambit. Now after knight c3, knight into e4 is there, and after knight into e4, there are some Greco. There are some variations following which are nice because now after short castle, there's bishop into c3 move. Knight into c3 is met by queen to b3, and now bishop into f7 is the threat. Actually, queen to b3 is not here. First, b into c3, bishop into c3. Now, queen to b3 is better. Now, we attack your bishop, and we also want to play bishop into f7 check. If you take on a1, then bishop into f7 check, king f8, and now bishop g5 is coming. With after knight e7, there's this move knight e5, and now black absolutely can't do anything here. Like if you take on d4, there's this move bishop to g6, and then after d5, then there's queen f3 check, knight f5, or bishop f5 is same. We take on f5, bishop into e5. Now after bishop e6 check, bishop f6, we just take on f6, king e8, and now this is totally lost because after bishop into g7 check, bishop into g7, we can here do nothing because now it's just too bad. Yeah. So so in the game, what happened was e5, but after knight takes bishop into c3 is the main move. Now d5 is coming with the idea to take, and now there's this theory bishop f6, rook e1, attacking the knight, rook knight e7, rook into e4, d6, bishop to g5, bishop into g5, knight into g5, h6, queen e2, and now h into g5, rook e1 is the idea to pressure on e7, bishop to e6, then d into e6. Now f6 is played. Now rook to e3, c6, and now rook to h3 is the main move, exchanging the rooks. Takes now g6, queen to f3, queen to a5. Now queen into f6 is met by queen into a1. So now rook e2, and now after queen f5, black is here slightly better, but in the engine suggests it's minus 2.2, but in real black is better in this position, not totally better because still there is something left and this e6 pawn can be dangerous, but black is better in this end game, so that's why it is not played much, but e5 is played, and now this position is considered to be equal after d5, bishop b5, knight e4, c into d4, bishop b6, and now there's some theory after knight c3, short castle, bishop e3, bishop to g4, h3, bishop h5, there is then queen c2, bishop to g6 defending, and now queen b3, knight e7, then short castle comes c6, and now there's some theory. But this is equal position. But in the game after e5 was played knight e4, which is a bad move now because we trap this knight. This knight is trapped here because bishop to d5 comes. Now we trap this e4 knight. Now the knight is nowhere to go but on f2. Because now if we go on g5, then I take knight into g5, and there's nothing possible because knight f6 is met by takes. Also knight d6 is met by takes, and even so there's nothing to go. We can't protect the knight by f5 because of c into d4, bishop b4 check, and now after bishop to d2, knight into d2, knight b into d2 just is just worse because we gave white the center and also we weakened our king side. So that's why this is not a good move. Now knight into f2 should be played, and now king into f2, and now d into c3 check. Now black has 3 pawns for d piece, but still white's activity is good. Now king to g3. The king may look vulnerable, but here it is safe on g3 due to the knight on f3 and the bishop on c1, which are covering all checks of the black queen. Now c into b2, bishop into b2, and now in the game it was played knight to e7. Now knight to e7. Here idea of knight e7 is just to play knight f5 check, and then to develop with d6, then sometime short castle, the knight e3 also can come. But here after knight e7, white just played knight g5, threatening knight into f7. Now obviously the move is to play knight into d5, and let me tell you, knight g5 is a big blunder here, because of the fact that here white could have just played something like h3, and now knight f5 check is met by a simple king h2, and now white is slightly better due to his superior activity. So, but here knight g5 blunder was played. Now knight f5 check doesn't work because of here king to knight f5 check actually also works, but there's because after king c4 there's short castle, then there's h4 because obviously you can't take on f5, d6 check will come, king f4, then d into e5, and the piece is just too vulnerable. Here bishop e3 check is coming, takes here, and the king is just too vulnerable, and now you have to give me back the piece, and I'm winning. But now and there's a better way to continue. We can just take on d5, which was played in the game here with the idea of taking on g5, and also if you take on d5 here, see, now my idea is to take on g5, you take on d5 with the queen, then queen into g5 check is totally lost for you, because now king s3 is coming, now d6 check, e6, and now queen into d5 will you lose, and now if you play king f3, then queen e3 check, king g4, and now h5 check, king f5, g6 check, king to f6, bishop e7 check, king g7, and now queen h6 is a mate with the king on g7. Now in the game after here it was played knight into f7, which is a bad move, a mistake, because it worsens things. Now just there's a way to win the game right now, and now you should pause the video and think what should you play here. The move is shock castle, and after shock castle, now here rook into f7 is played, and after shock castle there is also the threat of knight d2, and additionally after short castle there's a bishop to f2 check threats in the future. And actually you may have noticed that the queen is hanging, and it is so because now we sacrifice the queen because of the growing activity of the black pieces, and the f file is just way too much open. So knight into d8, and now after knight into d8, this was the final thing, and now the game is lost. Knight into d8 can be qualified as a mistake. It was the final thing for black to win the game. Actually, it should be played a dubious move. Yeah. Now you lose this game by force because now bishop f2 check is coming. Now king to h3 was played. Here now see now king to h3, king to g4 is made by rook f4 check, king h5, king h3. Then obviously there's rook h4 mate, king h5, rook h4 check, king g5, h6 check, king g6, and now knight e7 is a nice mate, and king f5 is also made by knight e7 mate. Also, if king g5 is played, then h6 check. Then if king h5, then check. King g6, knight e7. And if king g6, then also knight e7 check, king h5, and then rook h4. So the king is caught in a mating net. So now king to h3 has to be played. But now d6 check is coming. And now e6, blocking the ray of the bishop. Now knight f4 check, king to g4, and now knight into e6. Knight into e6 now with the idea of now rook to f4 check, king to h3 was like, let's say we make an example move here. Now rook to f4 check, king to h3 is met by knight to g5 mate, and now if king to h5, then also there's rook h4 mate. So this is the overall idea. After knight into e6, knight into e6. Okay. Knight into e6, knight into e6, bishop into e6 check. Now here it is made because now king h5, rook f5 check, king to g4. Now there's h5 check, forcing the king back on h3, and now rook to f3 is a checkmate. Beautiful game by Alexander Petrov. Now it was just masterful to see his pieces coordinate, and he punished one mistake by the opponent of playing knight to g5 with the tactic knight into d5, knight into f7, and then finally the brilliant move shock castle. Okay, this was the game. I hope you like this video, and don't forget to click the subscribe button and the bell icon. Thank you.